This mode pack currently includes 12 modes for controlling mixer-related parameters. Many of these modes include two variations: the standard variation, which controls the 8 tracks within the grid selector, and a return variation, which controls the first 8 return tracks. So I'll demonstrate those back to back. Also, many of these modes include volume control. By default, all of the volume controls within a script, as well as the modes that it can run, will control the full range of volume parameters. You can optionally limit this range. The setting for that can be found in Settings General, and when this is set to true, all volume controls will have a limited range from infinity to 0 dB. And finally, unless otherwise noted, in all of these modes, the encoder accessory buttons are used for track selection. Buttons assigned to track selection will select tracks. If the track is already selected, these will toggle the arm state of the track. If the track is a group track, holding these down will fold or unfold the group. When Shift is held down, these will select the track as well as the playing clip on the track if there is one. If the controller has a delete button, when that's held down, these will delete tracks. And if the controller has a duplicate button, when that's held down, these will duplicate tracks. These modes set up the encoders for controlling volume, for the 8 tracks within the grid selector, or the first 8 return tracks. These modes set up the encoders for controlling panning, for the 8 tracks within the grid selector, or the first 8 return tracks. These modes set up the encoders for controlling send levels. You'll specify the sends they should control in your encoder mode list file. Here's an example. The first 2 sets of encoders will control sends A and C for the 8 tracks within the grid selector, and the next 2 sets of encoders will control sends A and B for the first 8 return tracks. So now my first set of encoders will control send A, the second set will control send C, the next set will control send A for return tracks, and the last set will control send B for the first 8 return tracks. These modes also set up the encoders for controlling send levels. By default, you'll control send A. The encoder accessory buttons select the send to control. So now I'm controlling send D. The return variation works the same way for the first 8 return tracks. These modes consolidate the volume, pan, and sends modes into a single mode. By default, you'll control volume. The encoder accessory buttons select the parameter to control, so you can switch to pan or one of the sends. For example, now I'm controlling send B. The return variation works the same way for the first 8 return tracks. This mode sets up the encoders for controlling volume, pan, and the first 6 sends of the current track. This mode sets up the encoders for controlling the routing of the current track. You've got volume, pan, monitoring status, crossfade assignment, input type, input channel, output type, and output channel.